Odyssey MLB insider John Heyman. Insider calls presented by BetQL. Get access to data and insights the sportsbooks don't want you to see. Bet smarter and beat the books. Download the BetQL app or visit BetQL.com today. John, how are you? Thanks for taking the time. Busy day.
Yeah, I'm good, Bull. How are you?
Doing good. I remember Jonathan doing it. John and I were doing a couple of shows together around the trade deadline. I don't know if it was 2008, 2009. I don't remember exactly what year it was. But, like, John's doing the talk show with me, and he is, like, he's got to be on the phone every second. How do you even – is your phone – you might as well, like, glue the phone to your face, John. I mean, you guys that are these insiders, you can't get away from it for a second, right? You don't want to miss anything.
Well, today I think hopefully we'll be safe, but I'll let you know if I have to go. Tomorrow is a rough one. Yeah,
tomorrow's crazy. By the way, tomorrow, like baseball, I'm so annoyed with baseball. You know how much I love baseball, John. But why the trade deadline shouldn't be this close to the draft now that they've moved it back, and especially with basketball's trade. I don't know. I don't know why they don't make the trade deadline the second week of August or something. Now that they got rid of the second deadline, I'd like to see them move this back a little bit. What do you think?
Well, I think some people on certain teams, let's say, have weaknesses. They'd like to see it moved up. Because, they want to try to have a chance to make a correction and want to put pressure on teams to make decisions a little more quickly. We are 100 games in. You should have an idea of where your team is going at this point. There's pluses and minuses both ways. I think I personally think it's fine where it is. But I know there are people who think it should be moved up.
John, Indians got rid of Cesar Hernandez. They traded him for, a double-A prospect. It's not as if they were asking for the world back in return, but he had a $6 million club option for next year. A lot of fans are wondering if this is kind of them waving the white flag on the season. How do you see it?
I would say so. They're not going to say that, I'm sure, but if you trade him and fill the hole, the most obvious hole of the team in first place, I think so. And I guess the position they're in, they might feel that they'd have more chance for a wild card. I don't know, but it's a little unusual to trade to the team above you if you think you're in the race. That said, we just saw Seattle trade its closer to the team in first place in its division, the Astros. That got a very bad reaction, understandably so. Trading your closer when you're a hot team, just crazy to the team in first place. This is understandable. To be realistic about it, the Indians do not look like a contender, so it looks to me like they're waving the white flag, but I don't blame them. They're not winning this year.
No, they're doing the right thing. They're out of the playoff race. John, is there any chance the Indians trade Jose Ramirez in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I never like to rule anything out. I would rule out a trade of Ohtani or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't rule anything out. It's difficult to come up with its value when he's got such a team-friendly deal, but it's possible to do it. The one thing I would caution on this is the market is not good for that even star position player right now. There's just so many guys out there who are really good. Story, Bryant, Baez, Rizzo. And then there's some that are a little bit lesser than that, but still very good players. And I think the teams are just having difficulty getting anything for them. If you have a pitcher, particularly a starter, you'll get a haul. But if you've got a position player, even a great one, I don't think you're going to get the haul that you think you'd get. So I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, so the Indians get like we said, a double-A prospect. I would expect them to make maybe – Eddie Rosario's on the IL, but he might make sense to trade. John, could they trade one of their catchers, you think? Maybe Roberto Perez or Austin Hedges? Again, I know you're not getting much back, but do you see that happening?
Yeah, any of that's possible. They've clearly signaled that they understand they're not in the race. So, at that point, they're willing to talk about anything. It's not too likely that they trade a Bieber or Savali or Plesac, but, the Indians are a team willing to think about anything. We saw them trade Clevenger with 2.5 years to go last year. Now, I'm not suggesting they're going to trade Savali or Bieber, but they're willing to talk about anything, and certainly the catchers could be in play, and I think the relievers could be as well.
What would a Karinchak, you mentioned the relievers there, what would a Karinchak get on the market?
I think that would do well. He'd help any bullpen. You have a bullpen. You're not going to have 6 guys better than him, probably even 2 guys better than him. So, he's a closer or a setup man for any of these teams. So, you've got Kimbrel out there. We'll see what he gets. I think he'll get a ton, and Karinchak with more time to go, I think would get something pretty good if they were willing to do it. And at this point, all bets are off. For a reliever, if you're talking about a reliever, I think that they'd be willing to do it.
We're talking with Odyssey MLB insider John Heyman. John, the Yankees are a mess. I know they trade for Joey Gallo. I don't see how he solves their problem. They got like 7 Joey Gallos on that team already. Everybody on that team hits home runs and strikes out. They don't have any pitching. Garrett Cole's been lousy since he's been a little better lately, but he was terrible today. And their pitching stinks. Are they going to address the pitching? I hope they don't, because I don't want them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're trying. They're looking at Story and they're looking at pitching, and they think they can do it, and they're kind of working around the $210 million threshold. To me, that's sad that the Yankees are adhering to that threshold so strictly. This is the owner family bought the team for $10 million. It's now worth $5 billion. So it's up. I don't know. My math isn't that good, but 5,000%. I don't know. It's up a lot. To be worried about a $1 million tax bill is a little bit ridiculous in my mind. That said, they've found a way around it by they've got giving away better prospects and getting Texas to pay the money on Gallo, and they can do that with Story and anybody else they acquire if they give away better prospects. But I think that's sad that the Yankees are giving away better prospects to avoid $1 million tax. I don't know whether it's a pride thing or they need the $1 million that badly. It's a little bit ridiculous. I will say this in Gallo's defense. You are correct. He does it at home runs. He does strike out a lot. The big criticisms around New York have been that they're not athletic and they're way too right-handed. And, they're correcting this, but it's too late. In my mind, I don't think they're going to make it. But it is important to correct. It's a little silly that all their sluggers are right-handed. And, of course, you want to be more athletic. And Gallo is athletic, but you're right in the sense that he does strike out a ton and does hit home runs. So he does fit in, and he gives them a triple tower threat.
John, you mentioned briefly the Kendall Graveman trade, and then you get all the reports, and it's like Mariners players, they felt betrayed. They started breaking things in the clubhouse after the trade. Have you ever heard of anything like that where, like, unanimously the whole team just gets really angry and they start breaking things in the clubhouse and showing their frustration?
Yes, I can't cite it because I've been around so long, but I do know there were teams that have been upset by trades, and this was a particularly bad idea. There are GMs out there that are just into analytics, and they don't really see the human side to it at all. This is a team with a negative 50 run differential. It's 9 games over, playing their hearts out, winners of 4 straight. It just had a stirring comeback win over that first-place Astros team, then to trade a guy who was beloved in the clubhouse and a guy who had a 0.8 ERA, 0.6 whip, basically been unhittable in Graveman, and to trade him to the team in first place is absurd. It is patently absurd, and to think that this GM is not cut from the same mold as all the other GMs. He didn't go to the Ivy League. He is Mr. Analytics, but
former
he didn't
player.
Go to Princeton, Harvard, or Yale. Yes, Jerry DiPoto was a major league player. You think he knows what goes on in a clubhouse, but he's so caught up in the analytics, and it's gotten him many jobs. Who knows why, but it's gotten him many jobs, and he's going to keep that streak alive of the Mariners not being in the playoffs for 20 years. 20 years. Can you imagine that? This is a team with an above-average revenue base, and they've been in the playoffs in 20 years.
It's a disgrace, John. You're 100% right. They have overachieved. The guys have done a great job. They had I thought that on paper they didn't seem like a playoff team at all, and they've played great.
No,
you're right. To steal that, to take that guy to the locker room, there's no excuse for that. It wasn't like they got, I know they got an okay, solid prospect back, but I guess if you were getting like a Spencer Torkelson or a Wander Franco, then maybe I could see it, like an absolute can't miss superstar prospect. But besides that, it's completely ridiculous. I
think it's probably an overpay to get a guy with 5 years to go, and he probably felt proud of it. But you got to look at what the circumstances are, and he just didn't do that. And this team was, playing way over its heads, and now they've lost 2 in a row since the trade. They may just go into the tank, and it could be because of this trade. I don't blame them. Yeah. Go into the tank, Mariners. Show them what you think of this trade.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
John, who ultimately, you mentioned some of those big offensive names, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez. You mentioned Trevor Story. There's been a lot of names mentioned. Byron Buxton's even. Who ultimately goes, who doesn't go of some of the star names that have been out there? Scherzer, Kimbrel.
Yes. Yeah, Scherzer's gone from a 1% chance to about a 98% chance to go at this point.
Wow.
He could go to San Diego, L.A., San Francisco, Boston. Those would be my top 4 guesses. Brian, I think he goes. Probably Giants or Mets, unless somebody comes out of the woodwork. I'm going to guess Giants there. I think I'm adding. I don't know if you told me to guess which team, but I will anyway. Story looks, at this point, the Yankees are the only serious one. I've seen the Giants. I don't really think that fits. I think Baez may stay. I thought all along Rizzo would stay, but Boston does need a left-handed hitting first baseman. That would be a good fit. I don't know if they're going to pay enough to get him, though. So he could end up staying. I'll stick with Baez staying. I don't know who else were the other. Barrios, I think he goes now. Okay. I think he goes, and I think I'm going to guess Padres, and I'm going to guess Kimbrel will go to the Dodgers. If not, they'll get Hudson or somebody of that ilk.
Oh, Kimbrel to the Dodgers. I got to ask you about the NL West then, because the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, it's easily the most fun division in baseball. Who ends up taking that?
Yeah, I'm going to go with San Francisco. I don't think they're a fluke, and they've outplayed the other teams. The Dodgers have issues. Obviously, I don't think we're seeing Bauer again. I think San Diego and the Dodgers are maybe more likely to make big moves, so maybe I'll change my mind by the end of the day or tomorrow, but I'm going to stick with the Giants. I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
John, good stuff as always, man. Hang in there the next 24 hours.
All right, Paul. Good talking to you guys.
You too. John Heyman.